Hello. A few students asked for assistance on the dimensional analysis portion of the moles activity. So I just want to show you a few problems that are going to be excellent review. So I'm actually going to go through the moles activities that they have for you on Explore Learning. And we're going to look at each question one at a time. It's not going to be very complicated. So the first question says, question number 1 says, how many grams are in 3 moles of carbon? So they're saying how many grams are in 3 moles of carbon. So basically you have 3 moles of carbon and you're going to grams. They're asking you to go from moles to grams. So I have 3 moles of carbon right here. I have to decide one of these tiles to use. And what I'm going to do is, because I know I'm going from moles to grams, I'm going to grab this tile right here. I'm going to put it in its place. But because I want the mole unit to be canceled out, I'm going to flip this tile. So mole is in the denominator and grams in the numerator. So 1 mole of carbon is 12.011 grams of carbon because that's the molar mass. So what I've done is I've used the molar mass, but I used it correctly by making sure moles was the denominator and grams was the numerator. So moles cancels out. And when you do show units, show numerical answer, you notice that it comes out to be 36 grams of carbon. So the question said how many grams, so my answer is in grams, so I've done everything correct over here. And you can do check, and it says green check right there. We did question number 1 correctly. So let's try question number 2. How many moles are in 1.2 times 10 to the 24 atoms of copper? So they're giving me 1.2 times 10 to the 24 atoms of copper, and they're asking me to switch it to moles. So now I'm going from atoms to moles. So to go from atoms to moles, my first goal is I'm going to grab this tile right here, and I'm going to go from atoms to moles by using Avogadro's number. 1 mole of copper has 6.022 times 10 to the 23 atoms of copper. So the units cancel out, atoms cancels with atoms, and I'm left with moles. So this is what I was also showing you on the board, on the whiteboard. This is one way of converting from one unit to another unit. So the only unit you're left with is moles. So 1.2 times 10 to the 24 divided by 6.022 times 10 to the 23 gives you 1.99 moles of copper. And click on check, green check, we've got that one right. So the next problem says, how many moles are in 96 grams of sulfur? So they're giving you 96 grams of sulfur. They're asking you to go to moles. So I'm going to go from grams to moles. So I'm going to use the tile right here. This is the tile that has grams and moles in it because this is the molar mass of sulfur. The molar mass of sulfur is 32. And where are they getting these numbers from? They're getting it from the periodic table. When you look up sulfur, its molar mass is 32 grams. So grams of sulfur and grams of sulfur cancel out. So if I flip the tile, that would be incorrect because moles and grams don't cancel out, right? The unit I want in the bottom, in the denominator, I want grams to be there so that it cancels out with the grams that are connected to 96. So I have to flip that tile. So the answer comes out to be 2.99 moles. I do check, that's correct. Next question says, how many atoms are in 2 moles of aluminum? So I've got to go from moles to atoms. So I'm not going to use this tile because this tile goes from moles to grams by using molar mass. I'm going to use this tile right here. This goes from moles to atoms. This is using Avogadro's number. However, if I place it the way I have, you'll notice that the units don't cancel out. I want moles to get canceled out, and I want my answer to be in atoms because that's what they've asked for. So I have to flip this tile, and you'll notice when I do that, moles cancel out, and my answer is in atoms. And of course, you're going to multiply the 2 numbers above. Click on check, and it's right. Question 5, how many grams are in 1.5 times 10 to the 24 atoms of copper? So I'm going from atoms to grams. I'm going from atoms to grams. So to go from atoms to grams, I'm going to first go from atoms to moles. And I've placed the tile correctly where I have mole in the numerator and atoms in the denominator. And atoms is canceled out. But I still have to get to grams because the question said how many grams. So I'm now going to take the second tile. And the second tile is molar mass. It's the mole of copper. 1 mole of copper is 63.546 grams. However, I have to flip that tile because this way, the way I have it, it's not going to cancel out the units. But as soon as I flip the tile, the mole of copper and moles of copper cancel each other out. The only unit that survived is grams, which is correct. That's what I want my answer to be because the question said how many grams. Now, what do I do with these numbers? Remember, the numbers on the top, you multiply, and then you divide them by the number in the denominator. So go ahead and do that, and it comes out to be 158 grams of copper. And I click on check. Voila, correct answer. All right, question number 6. How many atoms are in 143 grams of aluminum? So we're going from grams to atoms. So grams to atoms, I'll first go from grams to moles. And grams cancels out with grams. This is, remember, I'm using molar mass. And then I'll go from moles to atoms. And I'll have to make sure I flip this tile because moles should be in the denominator. So it cancels out with the moles of aluminum right here. Boom. And the only unit that survived was atoms of aluminum. And I want the answer to be in atoms because that's what the question said. How many atoms? So you're going to multiply everything in the numerator and divide it by everything in the denominator. Okay, next question, number 7. How many moles are in 2.5 times 10 to the 24 molecules of potassium permanganate? So you have molecules of potassium permanganate and you're trying to go to moles. So I'm going to go from molecules to moles. I'm going to use this tile right here. And you notice I didn't have to flip the tile because molecules and molecules cancels out and I'm left with moles. Moles of potassium permanganate, 4.15. I just divided these two numbers with each other and check. So I definitely want you to go through all of these and get some practice. It's very important to get practice so you understand how to convert between units. It's very useful. So hopefully this was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.